Hey kids, welcome to Stylus Rumble Effects Time thing. Today I'm just going to play with a little bit of cheap, smaller effects just to give you some ideas of things that you can play around with yourself. You don't need to draw everything. Sometimes using the program to your advantage can save you a lot of time and get you some fun ideas. Using cutters, for example, can get you some neat stuff. So let's just play around a little bit today, see what we can get happening. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have some like rotating dashes. It'll make sense once you see it, but we're going to just do some like rainbow dashes that are going around the screen by using a cutter effect. So what I'm going to do is create a bunch of these triangles. And you can use squares if you don't want the inside of your stuff to be smaller than the outside. But I want them to just all touch at the tip, like good friends do. And then we'll find the center of our circle. All I'll do is just fill this, shrink it right down, and that's going to be where our center of our circle is. It's a little tip I learned at the Toon Boot camp thing. And we're going to fill guys like this. Now what we can do is rotate these guys around like this, and we're going to use them to cut our wheel. Boop. And let's use our coordinates control points because we want this to be a cycle. So we'll rotate it 720 degrees. That means it'll rotate twice. And we'll use it to cut like this. So you can have it inverted or not inverted depending on what size you need. And now you've got some cool swooshy light type effects. It could be any sort of thing. If you need, you see sometimes like balls of energy and stuff and they have just things rotating around them. That's how you could do that in a cheap and dirty way. We can also add a perspective peg and just squash it down like that. Let's turn off our render. And now we've got something that's spinning in perspective. Looks kind of cool. You could get a lot more elaborate than just using little triangles to cut into your piece. You could use a swooshy pattern, or you could actually hand animate something that's a little bit more elaborate that goes along. But this is a nice, cheap and dirty way to get something cool looking. Now we can come in here, throw glow on there. Boop. Check out our render view. You can use the source color or not. Turn up the intensity. Glow the guts out of it. Okay, calm down. Calm down. Like that. Let's render. See? You need a flying saucer that has some cool spinning lights on it or something. Don't make it too difficult. Just slap some cutters, swirly stuff together, and you've got yourself a cool little swooshy rotation. Now, I know in one of my rant videos I went on about not helping out the Essentials guys that much. But I'm going to quickly show you a way that you can do sparkles if you don't have an emitter. Because that can be a real pain. Like a sparkle field, just like a twinkle field. What you do, first you make some twinkles. And just copy and paste a whole whack of them. Doesn't matter if they're really symmetrical or even or whatever. As crazy as you like, depending on how elaborate you want your piece to be. Chop it down to lighten it up a bit. All right, so once you've got your sparkle field filled, you just got a whole whack of dots, and you're like, okay, this is... The next thing you do is, again, you create a guide, and you can write stuff like love, and you can draw little hearts, or you can draw little turtles. Lots of happy things. Don't draw nasty things, because if anybody reads the words in the sparkles, you want them to be lovely and not get you fired forever. You can make it as big or small as you want, hide as many little adorable things that are not about dicks in there as you want, and then what you're going to do is say only when the lines are visible are there sparkles. Or if you want a lot of sparkles, you could say, you could keep it like this, so you can see you could get a ton of sparkles or you can get a few sparkles depending on what you feel like. And then you can just animate your mask as much as you want. Like, how sparkly do you want this to be? See, if you go in a pattern, if you just go on a straight line, your stuff is going to feel a little bit like it's animated along a line. So you could do it in a random way. You could put a shake on this. There's a module called a quake, and it's meant to be a camera shake, but you can slap it on here and add some randomness to your animation. Or you can just literally throw in a pile of random things. And now, as you animate it along, you're going to get a strobing sparkle effect. So depending on how slowly you move your thing, or if you move it in a pattern, you can get some interesting effects on there. Rotating it is good. You can also double up. So here you can see the rotation of it because it's got quite a few long lines in it. But if you break it up a bit more. So it's got more holes in it. See how precise we are in effects? Now you're not going to get as many lines. It's going to feel a little bit less liney. You can also throw 1 or 2 on top of there. So instead of just one group of lines, you could have a bunch of different ones animated to give it a little bit more chaos in there. But if you don't have any of the particle things available to you, this is one way to get around it to do sparkle fields. So twinkly. And you can stack cutters. So if your character needed a sparkly dress, so pretty, then you can say, only when the sparkly dress is hanging around are the sparkles visible. And then just pair it to the sparkly dress so it moves along. Scale it down. And there you go. You've got your own little sparkly dress. This is stuff we used to do before the particle effects came along. It's a lot easier to slap some particles in there nowadays. We're so spoiled. Whee! So another one that is good to do is circles. I'm just going to duplicate the circle a couple times. Paste special, special. So the next one I'm going to do is another cheapy one. We can do very little work to make something look like it's took a lot more work. All right, so here we just have a whack of circles. And what I'm going to do is just randomly rotate and stretch these circles around. Frame 1, something a little bit atomic here. Then what we're going to do is just squash and stretch and smush all of our circles. You can cross over yourself depending on what you want your thing to look like. You can spend as much time or as little time as you want making sure that it has the right look that you're going for. If you want it to cycle, you take the last frame and paste it again. Boop. This one I don't like. It's a little too fat. And then put it inside of something. Let's say this is some sort of a tube, and it needs to have some glowy magical effects in there. What we're going to do is say that only when you're inside the tube are you visible. Ta-da! So when you play it just straight up, it looks like this. Now you have all this chaos happening in there. Now you're like, yeah, okay, I guess. It looks like a bunch of scribbles rolling around. But once you throw a bunch of cheap compositing on there, again, we're going to slap a glow on there. Love a good glow. You can animate it. So instead of using the source color or whatever, we can play down here and animate the colors as they go along. Oh, we're blooming here outside of our thing. So what we can do is either put a matte resize on it to shrink down our guy, or we can make sure that our cutter goes below our effects. Because if the cutter's above the effects up here, it cuts the thing first and then adds the glow. And if we move the cutter down below the glow, it'll add the glow first and then cut it. So we'll get that perfect seam. Or we could do both. Matte resize. So this we're just going to make -5. So it can have a little bit of outline. Let's add a little bit of a blur. See how it blurs the edges here? So what I'm going to do is put that behind and then put an overlay there. So that adds a little bit of a soft glow to our box, if that makes you feel good. And I'm going to put transparency on half of our circles. It doesn't make a huge deal because I got this blown out. If we bring it down, you'll see that it works a little better. All right, so let's render this out, our cheap and dirty effects. And here we've got a jar full of magic things happening. Got our tube full of mysterious magic stuff. Still feels a little bit undulaty. But like I said, you can just play around with your cycles until you're completely happy with it. You can keep things just running horizontally or just running vertically very easily. You have a lot of flexibility for not a lot of work. And it's pretty easy to get something that looks very random and chaotic. It looks like it spent a lot of time, when really it's just, you're just cheating and using. So let's just take our circle guy we have here. We'll just tie a couple of these together so you can see what kind of utility and fun you could start having. I mean, if you wanted to, you could have this this thing vibrate like this. That's easy enough to do. We'll take our dude, adjust our perspective so that it fits our tube, and then double up. We'll put one on the top too. Oh, you don't even have to make another one. Use an apply peg transformation, slap a little peg on there, and then move it up. Huzzah! We've got some sort of fancy transport beam. I don't know what it is. I don't have a plan here, but hopefully you can see how you can take just cutters and some glows, slap them together in some fun ways, throw a few circles in there, and you can do some cheap and dirty effects, no problem. Look, it looks like we're professionals, right? So hopefully that gave you some fun ideas of your own. Please share if you do any fun effects or anything that's based off my videos. That would be really fun. I love seeing them. Let me know if you want to see any other effects, because I spent this morning trying to think of what kind of effects to do, and I just drew a total blank. So I was like, I love cheap stuff. Here you go. What am I doing here? Let me on the internet. Thanks for dropping by. Like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do, and I will see you in the next video.